Welcome to the Creative Possibilities Podcast, a show for artists, dreamers, and individuals wanting to reconnect to their creativity. I am your host, Amber Price, and author of the Creative Possibilities book. And I'm inviting you to a space where creativity meets conversations about inspiration, hope, and rediscovering flow. Let's celebrate the creativity in all of us. Welcome, Kim, to the Creative Possibilities Podcast. I'm so happy to have you here today and so happy you agreed to have a conversation with me about gratitude and creativity. And I know we're going to talk about so much more, but that's the starting point and the topic that I wanted to start with today. Our paths have intersected recently in multiple ways. We're both a part of a program called Radical Magic for creative entrepreneurs. And we also just spent 6 weeks together. You came to my book club that I hosted for 6 weeks about my Creative Possibilities book. And I got to know you a little bit more. And the one thing that I absolutely love about you, Kim, is you just have a presence of gratitude. You're so appreciative for your art skills, for where you are in life, for so much that we talked about in our book club. I love that. I want to be around that a lot. So, so we are new friends, and today I want to just get started by asking you to tell me a little bit more about yourself. I know just a little bit, but tell me a little bit more about you and the forms of creativity that you love.
Thank you, Amber. It's a joy and a pleasure. I was gonna say I'm just a survivor, like everybody else on the planet, and at this point a thriver, which is why I'm just so grateful, for every day. It's amazing. I've had a lot of jobs in my life, but as we all know, jobs don't really define who you really are because everybody's a lot bigger than that, right? So
Our
that's
identity is so complex. Yes.
right, right. Yeah. I mean, I'm a bookworm. I can call myself kind of an artist at this point because been doing art for the last 5 or 10 years or so. Had a website since 2020 and like that. Anyway, yeah, yeah, yeah.
What are the types of
And
art that you really love?
um I acrylics are kind of the natural go-to. Acrylic paints are kind of my natural go-to, but I love playing with just all the different things like, crayons are still a thing,
Yes.
crayons and colored pencils and watercolors are amazing and the effects you get are just like amazing. And then I found some oil water pastels in a thrift store once and I love those and just all the toys are just yes.
hmm Yeah, like going back to the roots of art materials. Yes, there is like crayons. Drawing with crayons as an adult is so much different than what it was when you were in like third grade or
Yeah,
kindergarten or whatever. It's fun. Like
yeah,
you can get really good layered effects with crayons and colored pencils. And yeah, it doesn't have to be
yeah,
expensive. It doesn't even have to be the Crayola brand. It can be the generic.
right,
But Crayola does make some good stuff for sure. It
yeah,
sounds like what materials that you get your hands on, you just really play with and enjoy. And acrylic paint as well seems to be, I see the painting in your background. Was that painted with acrylic paint in the
yeah,
background?
yeah.
Uh,
I'm sure there's other things in there because I end up reaching for like fine art pens and pencils to try and get certain things, but yeah, yeah,
I love it. I love it. So exploring with lots of curiosity, exploring different materials, and then layering and adding, it sounds like. So
yeah.
absolutely. That's a beautiful form of art to be a part of. I enjoy that as well. Well, let me ask you, just because I know that that the gratitude theme that we're kind of sticking with today, I want to ask what things, and you said you're a survivor as well. What things have you had to let go of in order to reclaim your life after trauma, reclaim your life again, and just start feeling grateful again? So I know that's a big question, but
It, yeah, and I mean, the main thing I think ultimately to let go of was the victim story, for me to take responsibility for all of it, to, as in, you know, to own it, and then to, there is, as you know, the relanguaging and reframing of the story so that it's empowering rather than disempowering, right? And I choose to believe that I chose everything. I chose the parents, chose the circumstances, everything you can imagine. I ended up, I realized, I don't know, you know how it is when you get quiet and things sink into you and the knowledge sinks into you and you realize, I actually, this ended up, even though it seemed painful and all that at the time, it was terribly painful, but I chose it and I'm stronger for it. And hence you see some gratitude at this point, because it ends up being marvelous. It ends up being, yeah.
so you're the writer of your story, you're the owner of your story, and it sounds like you've really taken kind of the things that life has presented to you as like this happened, but I'm going to still own that it happened in my life and I'm going to choose to tell my story this way. And I love that. And it is being stuck in a victim story is so easy for all of us. Um, it's almost commonplace, woe is me, that story. And bad things do happen to really good people. And it's a huge transformation sometimes, a lengthy and huge transformation that it takes to go from something really bad happening to feeling grateful again. And I love how you said it's kind of like you started owning your story. You started really like making it an empowered story instead of a disempowered story.
And the teachers out there, Amber, like if you know of Viktor Frankl's story and being in
Yes.
the camps, I mean, you realize that your story is, I mean, his story was just so huge, and that they survived. And the reason they survived
Yes.
was because of the hope and the way that they thought they could not do the victim thing because that would kill you. You had to move over. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Man's Search for Meaning. That was a very
Right.
impactful book for me to read by Viktor Frankl. And it really
Yeah.
does, like, to be caught in a Holocaust camp and to still be able to hold on to hope. Holy cow. That's amazing. I know in my work with
Yeah.
my clients as a therapist, um, holding on to hope and having something to hope for is so powerful. And if we lose hope, it really does kind of it kills our spirit. It takes away our liveliness and our essence and takes away our creativity for sure if we're feeling helpless and like a victim. So yeah, switching it up. It sounds like you've had some powerful teachers and powerful books that you've helped you along the way too. That's wonderful. I try to learn those lessons too and grab all the knowledge I can about that because, yeah, it's feels like a lesson that we keep learning over and over sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you the next question. So you kind of hinted at tuning into you, tuning in to taking responsibility. Um, How does gratitude in specific help you quiet your mind or tune in? And this can be gratitude during your creative process or after your creative process.
And what's so neat about that question is that even at this point, I've practiced it long enough that even just saying it drops me into that quiet space, right?
Think of it kind of along the lines too, just with some of the things I've been learning in the psychology and mental health realm. Like we're actually rewiring our brain to focus on gratitude more. It's that neuroplasticity that's talked about sometimes. Like we may
Right,
have habits in our past where we may have instantly thought the worst or instantly been angry, upset, feeling like the victim, but we're training our brain, we're rewiring our brain to focus on the good, to focus
right,
on things that are working in our favor. Um, the sun, the moon, the house, the land, we're retraining our mind to like really pay attention to those details of the beauty around us. And I think that's essential for artists and creatives in general. Like most creatives do, like it's a practice of training your brain to look for beauty or interestingness or weirdness, whatever it is. And
yeah,
yeah, we get to have an escape from kind of old habits of our brain.
yeah,
And I make those gratitude lists too. Sometimes it's me just laying in bed and just thinking about it. Sometimes it may not get pinned to paper. Sometimes I'm just like, I want to just wake up with that appreciation or go to bed. I try to go to bed and wake up with appreciation to kind of get the ball rolling in that direction.
exactly,
Hopefully, pleasant dreams as well as a pleasant day. Um,
exactly.
and you mentioned the Course in Miracles too. That is definitely something I know a little about, but not a lot about. And from what I understand, it's also focused on seeing the miracles in life or seeing. Is that correct?
Yeah. And point in the course, it's kind of pointing out the fact that it could be said that the mind tends to uh look for the negative maybe. And that's really old wiring from, our days of trying to survive, mastodons or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And the course is kind of reassuring you, if you're just in the now, where the miracle is, that wipes out it is just an illusion. The real truth is the positive, the real truth is the life that we have. Anyway,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mindfulness, gratitude, it's all there. Yes. I love it.
yeah.
So, moving on to my next question about trust now. So, what role has trust played in helping you regain your intuition, your inner voice, that sense of empowerment after everything that you've gone through?
And that the trust thing is such a big part of my story because I things that I had gone through, and then I was living in my 20s and 30s and 40s, and had made mistake after mistake, and so I'd lost trust in myself and found a teacher, Abraham Hicks, and started trusting them for a moment. I was like, let's just experiment. Let's just
Mhm.
try going their direction for 30 days or whatever it takes to change a habit, right? So I did that and then just kept going. And the further you walk and the more you trust and the more you go towards the joy and being stubborn about claiming it and owning the joy and deliberately practicing joy, um then now, years later, I find I can trust myself, and trusting myself means trusting the inside and the larger self outside too, or not outside, but the smaller self and the larger self, and they're connected at this point.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. That reclaiming kind of the inner trust and reclaiming, um, as you said, it's kind of the bigger self, the bigger. Would you say that's kind of more of a spiritual kind of self of like just feeling connected to other things around us? Is that what you mean?
um the the larger self that you really, to me, that you really are, we're kind of like icebergs, like the body and where you and I are right now is just like the tip, so to speak, the physical tip. But the larger self is your soul is so huge, right? It's just huge,
Mm.
huge.
Yeah, I love that conversation. A conversation that we are more than just this body, we are more than just this brain and heart beating, that there is a depth to all of us that's bigger, and that soul depth. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I crave that. I definitely notice myself as like, we can be surface with a lot of people or in a lot of interactions. How's the weather? Oh, the weather's kind of dreary today. How you doing? Fine. Very surface level conversations. Yeah, I do them, but then I really enjoy going deeper to talk about like what brings people joy, what helps them feel connected, what gives them hope, and it sounds like that's kind of the bigger self that you're talking about too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Well, along this journey that you've been on, it sounds like you've made some huge transformations. And you mentioned in the write-up that you gave me, kind of a transformational journey from feeling emotionally entrapped in your life to feeling more liberated. Um, what was the turning point? Like, what helps you transform? There might be multiple turning points, but what are some things that helped you transform from entrapment to liberation?
And that's true. It's I was like, how do I pick out one piece of the puzzle and say it was this piece when
Yeah.
there's just so many, right? There's so many turning points. But I know that one of my favorite ones is on this journey back home.
Home.
Was taking having the courage to take an art welding class.
Ooh.
And I mean, I grew up on a farm and I had watched, all the men do the welding on the equipment, but it was just so neat to actually reach for the fact, doing an art welding class that I'd never done and, anything like that before. Hadn't done an art class before.
Wow.
I mean, literally. So it was, yeah, it was that was part of it. That's a good one. I
Absolutely.
loved that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think of welding, and I've done a little bit in like sculpture class in college, and it very much like taps into that masculine power part of art. I would say it does kind of have a stereotype that men weld more, but that's not true. Women weld too. And
Yeah.
so that it sounds like from going to not having any art classes to jumping into a welding class. That does sound really powerful. I love that. And
Yeah.
what kind of things did you create, or what kind of things did you weld together?
It I mean, obviously they start you out kind of giving you uh like they gave us like shapes to create with, and we could do whatever we wanted, but we were using like triangle, circles and squares. And I ended up making this tray along based on the Fibonacci sequence. And but my nature was to create figures, I noticed, and I created these kind of little fairy like different pieces. Anyway, it was way fun. I miss it. Yeah.
Just a torch and a couple of tanks away from going back to that, Kim.
So true.
Yeah, I've thought about that too for my backyard. I'm like, where can two tanks and a torch fit in my backyard?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. That's so cool. And so when it really sounds like you discovered a lot about yourself in that class and also continue to discover your creative strengths. Like that was just the starting point of classes, it sounds like. Um, What kind of things have, I guess, along the way and maybe even recently, what kind of things have you discovered about yourself through the creative process and through taking different classes or finding your gifts in those classes?
And that's such a great question too, because was thinking about my art. A lot of it, I noticed that like I'm not skilled enough to get the image exactly the way I want it at the moment, right? So it sits off to the side, and then I come back to it and work on it and recover it. I'm like, oh, I can create this or that out of it. I've even sold pieces that were to me were mistakes, but that I had managed to transform. And then in the bigger picture or the meta picture or whatever, in my own life, the mistakes I've made or the missteps that I took, even those journeys did indeed bring me closer to where I want to be and bring me here home, bring me to this heavenly place that I live in now. So
Mhm.
it all can be, it's all kind of compost for the garden, isn't it? it's all,
It's
it's
all a part
all,
of us.
it's
Yeah.
all compost. Yeah. Yeah.
I love how you see that
Yeah.
similarity between kind of the choices that have happened in your life or the things that have happened with your life, the mistakes, the stuff that we might regret, but it happened with also the art process. You know, we go through it, we make mistakes, it happens, we paint over it, we do something else, we move on, put that painting aside and start a new one. Yeah, I think those similarities, that's something that some people don't see. Sometimes they just see like their painting, it's very surface. I made a mistake. Ugh, I'm a failure at art.
Yeah.
But you really, I appreciate this about you, and it's the depth. It's that bigger self. It's the art represents our life, represents like a lesson that we can learn from. Um, and it is like I feel like my art too, like I constantly evolve as a human because of the mistakes that I make in my art, or like, you know, if it's a sketchbook, like I'll do one page that I really love, and then the next page I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
And then I'll learn from that and keep going and not let myself stop. Um,
Right. Right.
yeah, it really sounds like, and you have such a creative spirit. It sounds like you just keep creating. No matter if there's mistakes or not, you keep creating. Is that correct?
And the process itself, you fall in love, right? You fall in love with the process itself because you realize, um, because some of my work, I later just fall in love with it. You know, like if I set it aside for a month or so and I come back, I'm like, oh, that's or you love the potential in it, or there. I mean, the whole thing is just amazing how much you learn from it. It
Hmm.
the artwork is a therapy in itself, right? As you obviously point out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's we put our emotion, we put our time into it, we put our soul into it sometimes. And so yeah, it's hard not to love it. You know, I may dislike a painting for a while, but then I'm like, okay, I can still transform that. I can put paint over that and I can change it, or I can squint my eyes and like one part of it and just paint the rest something different. Yeah,
Right. Right.
definitely. Well, I want to actually now kind of switch gears a little bit and ask you more about the work that you're doing with other people, because it really sounds like you have such a gift for seeing the world through a new lens, through not the victim lens, like you said, but like a new reclaimed liberation. And so you have a program that you work with abuse survivors. Um, and you were telling me about it called S.O.A.R. And so I want to ask, in what ways does your work help other people, trauma survivors or abuse survivors? How does it help them reconnect with who they are, the community, their creativity? How does that all interact?
I'm still creating the program,
Ah,
to be honest, but so it I would just be teaching, and I have coached people in the past, of
yeah.
grounding techniques and
Mhm.
doing breathing techniques, or physical exercise is a great way to change your state. And if you can change your state from kind of a negative, or you know slowed down state into a faster and higher state, as you know, then it
Mhm.
your own thinking becomes more positive, and you gain clarity just from shifting states. The gratitude is another part of that. Writing the gratitudes, singing the gratitudes. I used to drive. We lived in New Mexico for a while, and I would drive alone to Lordsburg, to the store, and sing loudly, sing your favorite
Sing
songs,
your
except I
favorite
was singing them to myself, to my soul.
song.
So
Mhm.
that's another way to shift state. So I'm putting together a whole program about doing that. I mean, my artwork
Mhm.
kind of reflects some of the places where I've been, and I can tell when people relate to it. Um, which also shows me where they are, that they've also, like, one of the pieces is called Awkward Chick, which is a woman in a dress standing like on a moon or a planet or something, and her feet are chicken legs, and her skirt is covered with insects, and she's the awkward chick. And we've all been there. A lot of people have been there, the awkward chick in the back of the room, right?
I own that identity sometimes, yes.
Yeah. Yep. That would be me. Yes. Anyway, so I relate to all of us, struggling out there, but I'm here to tell you, you don't have to struggle. It can be easy, as someone recently said to us, it can be easy.
I love
Yeah.
that. And the reconnection, it sounds like you not only do that for yourself through grounding and through the gratitude singing and the gratitude writing, but then that's also something that it's your passion project that you're going to bring to other people as a gift and as a program. So, yes, yes to gratitude singing. I want to sing with you too. The car is great, rolling down the windows. I can't wait for it to get a little warmer here in St. Louis. But yes, rolling down the windows and just singing and sending ourselves. It's like sending ourselves those messages over and over, almost like reminders to stay grounded, to
Right.
stay grateful.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, like everything, and this has come up in each one of these podcast episodes, is that it's not a once we do things and then we're changed forever. It's a practice, and it sounds like
Right.
a repetitious practice that we bring to our own lives, as well as to other people. Um, and I like
Right.
that process. I like the practice. I like the, I
Right.
like the coming up with something weird and some weird. What did you call it? Weird chick. I like the weird chicks.
Yeah, building that muscle,
Mhm.
building that muscle, definitely.
Well, tell me a little bit about how can people find you if they want to connect with you, Kim? How can they learn more about your art, your programs? What links should
So
they find?
thank you. So the website is kimhawke.art. And then
Mhm.
I'm on Instagram at kimhawke.art, and on Facebook, of course. And if you go to the website, you can sign up for the email, and I will definitely be doing emails about the program.
Awesome. I can't wait to look into that a little bit more and look at your website. And as always, I enjoy talking to you so much, Kim. We're in different parts of the
Thank you,
United
Amber.
States, and hopefully we can meet in person someday because I really
Yes,
enjoy your spirit. So
absolutely.
thank you,
Thank you.
Kim.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
Amber.
rest of your day.
Thank
Bye.
you. All right.